Football time. Athos Sirianos is our guest in the Informer studio, the man from FNR, Football Nation Radio. Mate, it's been a gruelling week in the EPL, games coming almost every other day. But let's start in Australia. Seen some terrific football played, some amazing results, and lo and behold, the fairy tale on the Gold Coast continues.
It certainly does.
Central Coast Mariners, #1.
Well, that fairy tale made its way to Perth, and
Whoa.
when everyone thought it may have been a step too far for the Mariners to beat a very good Perth Glory, they've been scoring for fun over the last few weeks. Matt Simon and co went over there, put 2 goals past them. Perth staged a late comeback, albeit it was too little too late, and the Mariners, the show just keeps rolling on.
Now, that's tremendous validation for the tactics of Alan Stajic. Tremendous stuff from him because they're not flushed with money. So whatever they're doing with a core of youngsters and a couple of hard nuts, and they're playing some really attractive football. Well, they've even taken a WA boy back home just so he could play in front of his parents, young De Silva. Terrific talent.
De Silva, who's only 23, but it feels like he's 33. He's been around for that long.
Well, he has been.
Him and Matt Simon are 2 of the more experienced heads that are leading the way. I thought Matt Simon's finish was sensational, the way he brought it down. It was like watching him of 10 years ago.
Correct.
He's had a bit of a renaissance, hasn't he? He went through that stage where he became a bit of a meme, a bit of a joke.
We need to be fair. He had a terrible family problem. His daughter her health was seriously compromised. She's come through that. The scenes we saw a number of weeks back with his daughter in his arms, and he was a very, very happy man. I think that chapter has found some resolve, and he's back. Everyone seems to be loving his football, and he's loving it too.
And he's one of the rare icons and legends playing at the moment. We don't really have many that are still going. They've all long since retired, but he has been there since day one, pretty much at the Mariners. Went to Sydney and overseas in between, but he has played over 200 games now for the Central Coast, and he will forever go down as a club legend, I'm sure.
Now, while that's been happening, and it's a great story, and long may it continue, there's another club that's very much in the fabric of the A-League. It's been the biggest club in the country. Titles galore, some great names. At the moment, is it at its lowest ebb?
I think so.
Melbourne
Victory, of course.
Yep.
We thought it couldn't get any worse last season when they sacked Marco Kurz and they brought in Carlos Salvador, and COVID quarantined the hub. Brebner came in. It appeared like they'd got things back on track, but it appears to be the same stories as the year before. The new recruits aren't doing their job. They've put too much emphasis on these foreign players who aren't living up to expectations. The existing guys aren't doing enough. They're not developing enough young players. So it's the same old problems coming through, but the fingers have been pointed towards the club's hierarchy. So Di Pietro, Paul Trimboli, who have both been at the club for some time, and part of that team that brought all these players in. So no one's really looking at Grant Brebner, the head coach, who's only been there for 2 or 3 months now, all up. So no one's really looking at him as the scapegoat. It's more of the guys higher up. And it reached a boiling point. Richard Wilson, who was a founding board member, he's done so much with the club, been part of so many glory years, and has contributed in so many ways. He walked out a few weeks ago and went out swinging, had some things to say about the club's recruitment and the way it's moved forward. So I think you are right. This is the lowest, or perhaps the worst, of Melbourne Victory that we've seen in the 15, 16 years that the A-League has been running.
And we mustn't forget, though, they've played in one of the most exciting games of the A-League we've seen in years, in what was a terrific Melbourne derby with the guys on the other side of the Westgate Bridge, the boys from Western United, a 7-goal thriller.
Well, they're becoming very difficult to ignore, Western United. They're making a lot of noise on the field. They had that game, they beat Macarthur 4-1. The previous week, they had a 5-4 against Perth Glory. So they're very much the league's entertainers, and I think that's something they've really embraced. I'm sure they would like to win the boring 2 or 3-0 every weekend and be quite relaxed on the field, but
Football doesn't work like that.
No, but they're very much embracing this tag as the entertainers, and they're really living up to it.
One side that has been struggling all year for a number of reasons, Wellington, got on the winners list.
They certainly did. It's been a very tough year for them. They've been forced to relocate to Australia as a result of the border restrictions between Australia and New Zealand. So they've called Wollongong their new home. They've had a plethora of injuries as well. Guys like Luke De Vere, he's out for 10 weeks with a knee injury. David Ball's been suspended. Their new Israeli marquee striker, Tomer Hemed, has been out with a hamstring injury. So they have had their troubles, but they did get a good win over the Newcastle Jets. I feel they've been competitive, not as good as the other 10 sides, but they haven't been as poor as perhaps what their table position suggests.
Before we go, we must add that there's another Melbourne derby coming up, and it's going to pit Victory, which, as you say, is desperately looking for a win, up against the side that's also been, it's had a lean time early on, but it's had a couple of wins on the run now. We're talking about Melbourne City. They're playing at Marvel on the Saturday. What are you making of that? And who's likely to come out either refreshed or continuing in this winning vein?
Well, a big subplot to this derby is Andrew Naboot, formerly of Melbourne Victory. The Victory plucked him out of obscurity, if you remember that game against Sydney when he came on and scored 2 goals. He was meant to go to Perth, did a U-turn because of the border restrictions, signed for Melbourne City.
Along with young Nathaniel Atkinson, the two of them were supposed to go over there, but they're back at City.
And he hasn't left on the best of terms with the Victory fans either, so there will be that intensity, and it will be quite interesting to see the reception that he gets from the Victory fans. Hopefully we get to see a 50% capacity at Marvel, so around 26,000.
And I understand they've opened yet another away stand for the City fans. It had been sold out, but I believe Marvel have said, no, we can open up another area, so that'll be exciting. Let's hope it is a continuation of what has so far has been one of the best A-League seasons we've seen.
Well, if it's anything like last week's game, George, I'm sure we'll be very, very pleased.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we go, what's this about Barca-gate?
Well, the saga continues. Their president was arrested only a few days ago for his involvement in a range of things. The big one being, of course, paying a news publication to write bad things about the club, and things are now in the hands of the court, and it continues this ongoing saga which has tormented the club and really taken it to its knees over the last 18 months.
Wow. As always, if we want to know more about the game, catch up with FNR, Football Nation Radio, the breakfast program, you, Ed, and Mr. Nick Hughes.
That's right.
How's it going?
It's going okay.
All right, get some more. Or if you want to know more about what's happening, make sure you check TheInformer.tv. All the details with Athos Sirianos.